You know, it's tough to make a list of the most important survival items or the most important preparedness items for emergencies, and to limit the list to only 5 is extremely difficult. I sat down with some friends and just kind of talked through this to figure out what do we all think was the most important stuff, and I think I've come up with a pretty decent list. These are 5 things that you should definitely always have on hand. That means like available to you, not just in your home, but like you could get to them pretty quickly no matter where you are. So you might have one of these in a few different places. Your place of work, you might have one of these in your car, you might have one of these at your home, places that you're gonna be. For me, my car is a pretty good place for most things because it's usually with me. I'm gonna be in my car most places that I go. But that's because of the lifestyle I live and where I live. People are spread out, people are suburban, so you drive pretty much everywhere. But I don't necessarily always drive to work because it's pretty close. So keeping one of these in my office is also not a bad idea. So here are the 5 things that you should always have on hand in case of an emergency. Now I want to note one thing real quick. There are a lot of different kinds of emergencies, and depending on the kind of emergency, there are a lot of other things you're going to want to potentially have on hand. In this case, I wanted to come up with a list that would be universally important, but also important for in the case you need to leave, you need to evacuate wherever you are. So you need to quickly get out of the area. And because of that, some of the things on this list are not the kinds of things you would need for, let's say you had a power outage and it was a temporary type of emergency situation, but you could get home, right? This is if you needed to be able to pick up and leave and take these things with you. For the first item, I wanted to go to most fundamental necessity, and that is water. We need to be able to have water no matter what we do. Now, does that mean we need to store water bottles in our car? That's not a bad idea, but you're not necessarily going to be able to have a bunch of water bottles at your office. And in a situation that you're not able to just quickly fill up a water container, I highly recommend that you have a way to be able to store water and a way to be able to clean water. This here is actually made by Life Straw. It's upside down. This is a Life Straw, and it's basically just a big bladder, right? Just like a lot of other types that we would have. But then with it is this tubing, the hose, essentially kind of like a Life Straw, a big filter on the end. I use this when I go camping in a place that doesn't have potable water readily available. So I can literally just go down to, in fact, the last time I went, I took this down to the river, got out on a little rock, filled it up in a matter of seconds. You kind of roll it over, and then you can clip it shut. And you could hang it, up, you could do whatever you want with it. I can put it in a backpack. I did that and use it as like a camelback for the rest of actually a whole day hike. It's the suction on it, you have to suck a bit harder than you'd have to if it were just a regular camelback, because you gotta get it through the filter, but it's kind of like sucking through a Life Straw. It's not too bad. This might seem kind of silly to kind of have with you all the time. Maybe it seems kind of bulky, but the reality is I could roll it all up and it doesn't take up a lot of space. I could easily keep one of these in my car. I could easily keep one of these maybe in my desk at work. And then if some sort of emergency did happen and I needed to be able to get out quickly, I could just grab it and take it with me. If you had a chance, you could fill it with water, and maybe you don't need to have that water filtered, but it stores a whole gallon, which is great, depending on who you talk to, a couple days worth of water to drink. So it's a fantastic way to go. Now, if that seems like a little bit much, or you can't have one of these in every place, some at home, some in your car, some at your office, I'm definitely a fan of the Life straw itself. I actually have a bunch of these. I buy the 4-packs at Costco. They have 5-packs on Amazon. I have at least one in my car. I have several at home in like 72-hour emergency kits, and I have one at my office, right? And so no matter what happens, I could easily filter water if I needed to. But that doesn't help me with the whole carrying it with me situation. So definitely gonna want one of these. Now, as another little caveat, it's handy to always have something you could carry things in. I have a backpack I like to use. I carry camera gear in it. I carry a laptop in it. And then if an emergency happened, I might dump all that stuff out and throw these things into it. That way I could easily carry a whole gallon of water with me no matter where I go. Now, I'm not stuck on just the Life Straw brand. Sawyer has this one that's very similar to that Life Straw I just showed you. It's got their filter on the end of it. Works great too. The bag, it's this plasticky material, whereas the Life Straw is, it's like a nylon or something, but it's just a little bit more substantial, and the inside's lined with a waterproof material. So I kind of like this for the bag itself, but for filtration purposes and stuff, they're both awesome. Don't really care which one you choose to use. The second thing that I'm always gonna have available with me, no matter what I do, is some kind of food. I've heard people ask this question a lot. What should I have with me that I could store maybe in my car, so it can get hot, it can get cold, and then not just get ruined. And a lot of people recommended emergency ration bars. Those I don't have a problem with from a survival standpoint. Maybe they do cover your nutrition a little bit better and give you enough calories if you can stomach it all. But in a recent video, I actually spent a whole week eating only ration bars, and I'll tell you what, by the end of the first day, I was more than sick of them. Some are better than others. If you've just bought a bunch to have on hand and you've never tried them, I recommend trying them and determine if that's something that you could actually eat for a whole day's worth of calories. What I prefer to do is have types of food that, one, are easy to carry around, that last a long time, can handle the temperature swings, so it could stay in my car or be in my office, but that I actually enjoy eating. You know what? Some beef jerky. That's just cheap, great value beef jerky. This thing's got a shelf life of at least a couple of years. The best, if used by date, is still more than a year out, and I've been eating on this one for a while now. Another really good thing to have on hand, I do like freeze-dried food. It's great. I like to keep some freeze-dried fruit. A lot of people kind of miss that in their diet when they're planning for emergency stuff, but freeze-dried strawberries, pineapples, like candy, I gotta tell you. Coconut's good. Just freeze-dried fruit is a great one. Keeping that in a Mylar bag as well. And again, keeps them in your car, keeps them in your office. If an emergency happens, just grab it and go. Maybe have a little food bag. Another fantastic one to make sure you get kind of lots of quick energy calories is hard candies. Jolly Ranchers are one of my favorites. It can be a great way if you are having to survive on like emergency rations especially, or if you're just kind of like eating some of the same stuff over and over and over again and your body craves something a little bit tastier. It's a nice treat, but it also packs a whole bunch of energy into just a little bit of space. You can just suck on it for a while and it will give you that kind of ongoing energy and tastes good. So hard candies, Jolly Ranchers are a favorite of mine. It's a great thing to have on hand. Okay, 2 down. The next one, this is basically always in my pocket. I would say a knife or a multi-tool. I definitely prefer a multi-tool to just a pocket knife because there are a lot of times where, I tell you what, the pliers come in extremely handy. I've used the screwdriver so many times, even the scissors. That's a can opener that, by the way, if you don't know how to use one of these can openers, you should learn. They're really handy. They're on like all these different multi-tools, and a lot of people have no idea how to use one. But even the scissors can be pretty handy. Make sure you keep it all sharpened and good and ready to use. But this thing's in my pocket and I basically use it every single day. This is the Leatherman Juice S2. I can't even give you a link to go buy one of these for yourself because it's a discontinued product, unfortunately, which is really sad. What I like about it is its size. It fits just perfectly in that sort of 5th pocket in your jeans. So it's not kind of mixed in with all my keys and stuff down below in my pocket. So I love the size of it, but it still has the full pliers and really all the tools I use on most Leathermans without the ones I don't really use very often. So it's a good one. I'm gonna have to look for a replacement. If I find a good comparable Leatherman that's similar in size, I'll link to it in the description below. In fact, I'll link to really all of these products that I've tested and personally used. The next thing I really like to keep on hand is some sort of lighter or fire starter. Now, I'm kind of old school. I think it's important to have the skills to be able to start a fire. I'd love to keep a flint. I can use this flint with like any knife or whatever, even with the multi-tool. Now, I'll usually use the back of like a fixed knife blade. That's obviously not gonna work with this. If I use the front, I'm gonna really dull the blade really fast. I tried this out a little bit ago. I just took the pliers. I don't usually do this because I usually use like a fixed blade knife and just use the back of it. But I just literally took the rough part of the plier and put it on here, and I just went, and I got the biggest spark I have ever had on a flint. Now, you'll notice that this is like really big. You probably have never bought a flint and steel set with a flint that big. The bigger, the longer, first of all, the better, because you get more contact for more time and you can get a much bigger spark. Also, the bigger around, again, the more contact you can make at any point in time. And so you can just get a really, really nice solid spark. You can sit there with a tiny little flint and just go at it and go at it and go at it and get sparks every single time and really struggle to start a fire. Whereas when you're able to get much bigger sparks, you can really throw them a lot farther and they're a lot hotter and they burn longer. But I actually do recommend having some sort of a lighter. Whether that's a regular standard lighter fluid lighter, a little Bic lighter, something like that, or a Zippo. I got one of these. This is electric, and you're going to see in a second why I'm okay with this also being my emergency lighter. This one came with a little whistle too, just this one on Amazon, but it's electric and it creates a little arc. There's not a big flame or anything. It's just a little electric arc right there. But it's super hot, it lights fires really well. I don't even know how many hundreds of times you can light it before the battery runs out. It does also have a little built-in flashlight, which is, I guess, kind of cool. there's your flashlight right there. You'll notice flashlight hasn't been on this list so far, and that's just because, honestly, like everything has a flashlight in it so far. You've got things like this that add a flashlight to it, right? Most of us have, here's mine, most of us have a cell phone, right? Cell phone, it's got a flashlight in it. Nice. And it works pretty well. So for an emergency situation, if I had to pick 5 items, flashlight's probably not one of my top 5. Although I love a good headlamp, and so in an emergency like go bag, absolutely gonna have that. So there's kind of an assumption built into this list too, that you may have a smartphone. Now, I know in a lot of emergencies, we can't trust that the cell network's gonna work, right? We may not want it to for one reason or another, right? But I like to have access to maps and I like to have access to information. I have apps on here that have all sorts of survival information stored on the phone. So even if there's no network, it doesn't need to be able to access the internet for me to get access to all that information. More than I can just keep on hand in my head, which is pretty cool. Likewise, I have maps on Google Maps. You can save an area to your phone so that you can get detailed maps of the city that you live in or cities that you're traveling to. For the mountains, I use Onyx. It's an app that I can use for hiking, hunting, trail riding, that kind of stuff. And I can save maps. And so areas that I go to, I save the big area on kind of a low definition map, right? And then if there's specific areas I use a lot, I'll zoom way in and save those maps so I can get all the detail. I can get topographical information. I can save waypoints, all sorts of stuff. So all of that I have on my phone. And so I didn't include this as one of the survival items because I'm assuming it's probably just going to be in your pocket. But what happens when your phone suddenly dies? For that reason, and because we assumed the phone would be a tool that a lot of us would have, I included a portable battery bank. Now this one in particular, and there are lots of others like it, is more than just the battery bank. It does have a little bit of a flashlight on the back, but more than that is it has the built-in, actually not just 1, but 4 solar panels. And because of that, I can keep it charged no matter what's going on, which is pretty cool. As long as there's sunshine. So during the day, I can hang it on the back of a backpack and just let it soak up the sun while I'm walking along. I can set it out if I'm in a location where I'm stopped. I can set it out and let it charge. And so it'll allow me to keep my phone and my lighter charged, at least enough for me to continue to have good access to the information that I need. Now, if there's an emergency, there's no network, I'm probably going to put my phone in airplane mode just to make sure that it doesn't waste its battery searching for a network. But with that being the case and just not using it more than I need to, this is going to be more than enough to keep that and the lighter completely charged, making sure that I'm able to start a fire to keep myself warm, and making sure that I'm able to get access to maps and other important information. So my question for you, what's on your list? What would be the top 5 most important things that you think you should have on hand for an emergency and different types of emergencies? I'd love to hear the details from you. Where you live, what are the types of emergencies you face, and so how does your list differ from mine? What did I miss? Comment below. Tell me, what would you change about this list? And I hope to see you in the next video here on Pantry Preparedness.